Breaking news at 4, taking the chance away from voters to decide if city council members will get a pay raise. It happened this morning in a basically empty room. Cape Coral City Council that you see here decided not to put the topic of their stipends on the ballot for the people of Cape Coral to vote on. Hello, I'm Russ McCaskey.
And I'm Emma Heaton in for Amanda Hall. This morning's meeting was quite the change from what we've seen in the past when Cape Coral held their COW meetings in the afternoons. This is what it looked like, a packed house with passionate public comment. Wink News anchor Claire Galt tells us why city council members say it won't make it on the ballot.
Y'all work for us.
Cape Coral City Council members are part-time employees. Larry Gillis said they should be paid like it.
You should not be paid as full-time management. You have a city manager who is paid a handsome salary.
Larry is one of a few neighbors who came to Wednesday's Committee of the Whole meeting to remind council members he's still mad. So mad, in fact, he's running for council. He hates that the current council voted last year to give themselves stipends.
We're the ones who are paying for this whole show.
I would recommend the first tangible action you might do is to go ahead and rescind the stipend as it is now.
Those stipends come in at $5,000 a month for the mayor and $3,333 for each council member. At their April 10th workshop, council members floated the idea of getting rid of the stipends. Instead, they would put a referendum on the ballot that would change the way they get paid. Now, that idea is dead.
I would recommend waiting to the next council is seated after November.
Don't think it was ready yet.
The deadline to provide official ballot language to the supervisor of elections is July 8th. Council said it's not enough time.
People probably saw that the stipends might go away. Now they're seeing again that they're not. Are you concerned that this will further, widen the gap of trust?
I don't know if it'll widen the gap of trust. Obviously, stipends are going to remain controversial. That wasn't going to change.
I don't believe any of you care what we say.
Despite the anger, frustration, rage council members have seen for months, they made it clear the stipends are staying. In Cape Coral, I'm Claire Galt, Wink News.
Councilmen Richard Carr and Dan Shepard are the only two who have said publicly they're not taking the stipends.
And keeping it at the Cape Committee of the Whole meeting, it was jam-packed with key issues. At the top of the project the top of that list is Project Sparkle. Today, the City Council gave an update on the project that is meant to enhance the Cape's parks and recreation facilities. And they told us 59% of the things that the city wanted to improve at the parks are completed. And what's left are the big-scale items, like renovating the facilities. Coming up at 5, we're going to take a deep look into the Cape Coral Yacht Club and how some people are not too excited about the proposed designs.
More breaking news right now. A car found turned over in a canal connected to a carjacking. Law enforcement has everything except the person who was behind the wheel. Fort Myers police tell us a person was on a walk when they saw that car flipped upside down in a pond on Trailhead Neighborhood Park on Veronica Shoemaker. Now, Fort Myers police say no one was inside. The carjacking was on Canal Street the night before. This is still an ongoing investigation. Also breaking news, a threat of violence at Cape Coral High School. Officials say they found a threatening message written on the bathroom wall. Cape Coral police say the threat is not credible and poses no threat to public safety. They continue to investigate.
All right, what role does this restaurant play in the investigation of a deadly crash? This is Fuzzy's at St. James City, and it's where troopers say that this man that you're going to see here, Cody Curtis, was drinking before he hit and killed an 80-year-old woman and injured 4 others. It happened on Matt Lachey. There's Cody there. Now, Week News reporter Olivia Jean joins us live on Pine Island. Olivia, could Fuzzy's face any backlash from how drunk Cody Curtis was?
They could. It's just up to the victims and their families on what they want to do. Right behind me is where Cody Curtis was drinking on April 13th, Fuzzy's Boat Shack. Troopers say he got into his car and left the parking lot, and in just 13 minutes later, he hit 5 people in Matt Lachey, killing Mary Lou Sharp and injuring 4 others, Butch, Tom, Sharon, and Mike. Cody Curtis was arrested Monday for driving under the influence and crashing into that barbecue place in Matt Lachey on April 30th, killing Mary Lou Sharp and injuring 4 others. I asked Kasha Darna, Mary Lou's granddaughter, if Fuzzy's in St. James City should be held accountable.
If he was that intoxicated to where he was going to leave there and kill somebody the way he did, I think they should be held accountable.
Florida Highway Patrol says video shows Curtis lifting his head up and swaying backwards, ultimately losing his balance before getting in his car. I spoke with a criminal defense attorney who is not involved in this case but reviewed the arrest report. She says it's not likely.
Criminal liability isn't necessarily always appropriate, but there's also the key of civil liability.
She says there's not much law enforcement can do, and it's up to the victims and the victims' families to seek legal action.
The biggest thing for them is going to be civil liability. When there's unfortunately a death involved and serious bodily injury, if they are looking for potentially compensation for the injuries that they have suffered, the loss that they have suffered.
She says laws are in place to protect all people.
He was stumbling and just appearing very drunk in the video based on the booking report, and that doesn't necessarily translate to what was happening inside of the bar. Now, it could, but we don't know because we don't know that video. We haven't seen that video.
Mary Lou's family told me they will explore legal options. Curtis blew a .137 4.5 hours after the crash and claimed he only had 2 beers at Fuzzy's.
There's no possible way that 2 beers equals that number unless he slammed them right before.
I called Fuzzy's on Monday before anything was confirmed. The manager that answered said she couldn't comment. Today, Fuzzy's owners, the Phelan Family Brands, gave me this statement, quote, Phelan Family Brands mourns the rest of the Pine Island Matlacha community in the recent tragic event. We are cooperating with the Florida Highway Patrol as they continue their investigation. Live in St. James City, Olivia Jean, Wink News.
Olivia, thanks. I want to get to some more breaking news right now at 4. The president has signed a bill that could lead to a nationwide ban on the popular TikTok social media app. The bill was part of a wide-ranging foreign aid package that the Senate approved last night. TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, ByteDance. Lawmakers have long railed against the company, saying that it gives the Chinese government potential access to the personal data of millions of Americans. Coming up a little bit later, what that ban means for those of you with the app on your phone right now.
More breaking news here on Wink. A flight from Fort Myers made an emergency landing due to a mechanical issue. You can see the path it took here on Flight Aware. Thankfully, the flight landed safely in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are working to get more details, and we'll update you once we have more information.
More than a year and a half living without power. It's a reality for some on Fort Myers Beach. Representatives from FPL's CAT team will be out there to help people rebuilding following Hurricane Ian. They're stationed at the Fort Myers Beach Public Library to give residents some face-to-face time and answers to their questions about things like meters and billing and reconnection. If you miss them today, they will be back out there Wednesdays from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Asbestos is preventing this building from being torn down. Punta Gorda Waterfront Hotel and Suites is abandoned, and it sits right next to Gilchrist Park. But nothing can happen till the asbestos is gone. Now, Wink News reporter Summer Senni joins us in the studio. Summer, when will the mineral be removed?
Well, Emma, hopefully it's going to be removed sometime soon. Attorney Derek Rooney, who is representing the owner of this hotel and restaurant, said an asbestos contractor has finally been selected, but he didn't say how long it will take. People I spoke with today had a variety of reactions to this Punta Gorda hotel and restaurant. Some said this is an eyesore, while others didn't mind it. But they all hope that if something new is built, it keeps the city's charm.
An eyesore and a health hazard. Asbestos was found in the Punta Gorda Waterfront Hotel and Suites, along with the Hurricane Charlie's Raw Bar and Grill next door.
If they detect additional asbestos, that may cause some additional delay.
Attorney Derek Rooney is representing the owner of the hotel, Amer Asmar. Rooney met with the city's Code Enforcement Board Wednesday to provide an update on the asbestos.
We have a contractor, we have a process we're going through at the abatement.
It's horrible. It's got graffiti on it now, and it's gone ghetto.
I met Steve McBride while he was riding his bike in Gilchrist Park, right next to the hotel and restaurant.
I live in Bay Palms, and they all mentioned that. They're sad because they used to come here. We didn't know if we could walk this far in, let's put it that way.
Diana and Nick Ong were visiting the Harbor Walk for the first time.
We came from Fisherman's Village earlier. We were there the other day, and I mean, that's really nice. And then you walk in, you're like, whoa. I mean, we were just walking around the city, and We saw the quaintness, the oldness, and sort of keep that charm.
Mindy Carlson and her dog Loki were out for their morning walk. The building doesn't bother her, but she hopes the city keeps a small town feel.
Consistency within the surrounding infrastructure and, the granting the wishes of the community.
And Rooney met with the city this afternoon for a pre-application permit meeting. He told me he expects the demolition permit will be in by Monday, and then active demolition for both the restaurant and hotel will hopefully begin in May and will take 120 days, weather permitting. He didn't mention any plans for rebuilding after the demolition. Back to you.
All right, well, we'll see how it turns out, Summer. Thanks. Well, one of the greatest college football players of all time will get his chance to stand with other greats. Today, Reggie Bush is reinstated as a 2005 Heisman Trophy winner. The running back from USC won college football's most prestigious award back in 2005. It was snatched from him in 2010 when USC was slapped with major sanctions. Today, the Heisman Trust announced enormous changes in the college football landscape, including new rules allowing athlete compensation, which would warrant Bush getting his trophy back. Bush will once again be invited to Heisman Trophy ceremonies starting with the 2024 season.
Wow, I mean, that award was from a while ago,
Yeah,
so I'm sure he's glad to see it back.
It's a big change, and I remember when it was taken away from him, that there were people on both sides of the fence. Some people thought that it should be taken away. Others thought that he was that great of a running back. It shouldn't be. But anyway, he's back with his trophy now. All right, well, 36 years go by as a violent murder goes unsolved until now.
Charlotte County closed a murder case that dates back to 1988. Robert Hecht was murdered in his home. Now deputies are sharing how they tracked down the person they believe to be responsible for this crime.
Well, the city's phone rings off the hook over the wrongful painting of this building, and now we're hearing from the manufacturer who provided the stain on just how it can be removed. I'm Wink News anchor Annette Montgomery in the studio with how the city is now trying to right this wrong.
And happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm back in the Weather Center talking about some nice weather, warm conditions, that full 10-day. You don't want to miss it right after the break.
Thanks. Well, the people who provided materials for the paint job that has a city up in arms had no idea that it would be used to go against the wishes of many. Here on Wink, we've been telling you how upset some people are about the fresh white coat of paint that the Richards building got.
Now in an interview you'll only see on Wink News, we hear from the manufacturer who supplied the paint stain on the Richards building. Wink News anchor Annette Montgomery joins us in studio. Annette, how did they hear the job was done despite Fort Myers saying no?
Well, Emma and Russ, they kind of found out in the same way the mayor told me he found out, by seeing information about it on social media and seeing our story here on Wink. Now the president of Mineral Stains tells me before he caught wind of how a stop work order was ignored, he didn't know the paint stain he provided would be used to do unpermitted work.
It can be restored. It's not as hard as actual paint. But like I said, again, it's just unfortunate that we have to find out this way that the product we source on a beautiful building may or may not. I don't know what the final determination is going to be. So.
While some questions still remain up in the air regarding the new coating covering the historic 101-year-old Richards building in downtown Fort Myers, like, will the building stay this way?
I have no idea. When the case comes before us, we will review it on the facts that are presented there at the Historic Preservation meeting.
And just how was the stop work order ignored?
Was it an act of defiance?
This is a very blatant act.
We're finally getting answers to other major questions from the president of the company who provided the materials, like what exactly is coating the entire building and what would need to happen for it to be removed.
When it's stained, it soaks into the brick and becomes part of the brick, therefore reducing any chips or peels or destruction to the masonry. So we use this up north for a lot of historical preservations, like the George Furback home that was built by Frank Lloyd Wright in Oak Park, for instance. You would simply have to start with, obviously, harsh acids to remove the stain.
Matt Plennon found out online that the stain from Mineral Stains was used for the unpermitted work, but says it is reversible.
When I found out that this was not permitted properly, it was heartbreaking to me. It can be restored. It's just the right protocol would have to be used not to denigrate the mortar and the brick.
Well, you may be wondering what happens next. Well, according to the HPC, the next preservation meeting, the applicant will go before the board and provide all of their information and submit their application to get a certificate of approval. Now, the lawyer representing the applicant told me he's not available to speak to me until Friday. Back to you.
I will see what he has to say then. Annette, thanks. A violent murder solved 36 years later. Deputies share with us the tech that helped solve the case.
Bike chain, blockchain, supply chain. We don't care where our stuff. Wise companies are still leaning on the supply chain excuse.
Cold hard cash protecting you and your wallet when you fly. The new airline rules putting cash in your hand.